look at the wars that people are restaging, and look at the wars that don't have any political or cultural currency, or look at the, like, you know, we reach for the Nazis in part because of film. We reach for the Nazis in part because it's been socially reproduced as a villain for decades. And, you know,
where's all this energy about Ukraine? Where's it been about Africa forever? You know what I mean? Like, we do bring that up. I mean, and I know that's back to the hypocrisy conversation and the moral conversation, but it's something we've thought about a lot on this program, is like, where is the outrage? Why is there so much political energy for this thing but not for this thing, which is just as fucking bad? There's that part of it, and I think that's going to be clouding our ability to move through this as well. In other words, the ghosts of American history are present in the way we talk about this shit, and maybe that's unavoidable.
And I think that part of the reason why they are ghosts is because no matter what you want to say about culture and representation, there's still an underlying political economy that sort of continually reproduces a certain kind of political materialism, or I don't know what you want to call it. And so part of the reason why we keep talking about Nazis is because the world order still resembles and is the clear it is clearly tied to 1945. And so part of what I want to sort of suggest here is that, you know, there was a kind of a very clear trajectory in kind of global economy between 45 and 73, the first year, if I'm correct, of the oil shocks. And we went from, in 2016, with a lot of those analogies to the 1930s and sort of the fascist movement era, we went from a very 1930s heavy set of iconography into right now a 1970s set of iconography and references. So you almost never see the 30s referenced anymore except 1939, but you don't see 1929 or 33 referenced as much anymore. And that was also much more common during Occupy and in the wake of the last financial crisis in 07, 08. Now we're in this like 70s moment again. And part of what I'm connecting to about these sort of these bursts of like decade-isms.
Yeah, you're talking about gas lines and those sorts of images.
Is also because those are the key times when the world order is reconfigured in a certain way, and it's either reproduced or it mutates. And so, you know, in some ways, 73 is a continuation of the alliances that were put in place in 45. You can see that with the U.S. and Saudi relationship. And you can see that even the United States dollar going off of gold and becoming like this free-floating currency that allows it to become the world's reserve currency, and oil's priced in dollars. These do incredible things for U.S. consumers, but also like it allows the United States to financialize its way out of the kind of deficit it was running as a result of the Vietnam War. And it sets up this new era of neoliberalism that, you know, Harvey loves to highlight, and others, in terms of like the ascension of Thatcher and Reagan in the late 70s and early 80s, the kind of fear city aspect of New York City that then becomes remade in the 80s and 90s. And we've spoken about, you know, on this show a number of times, both, you know, economically and culturally. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because in many ways, 9/11 and the response by central banks to 9/11, the response by central banks to the financial crisis of 07, 08, these are all moments where the kind of the basic political economy of the planet was geared towards globalization. Corporations were becoming more and more powerful as their transnational forms. All of those things that in the 1970s set in motion the rise of Silicon Valley. And now you have these US tech firms sort of dominating the global landscape all over the world.
I hear the Californication song playing in my head.
Right. And so what I want to just kind of conclude on as a sort of marking point for future conversation is the high inflation we're seeing now that's reminiscent of the 1970s isn't just a coincidence. It's a signal to us that the era of neoliberalism that we associate as having risen out of the 70s is tremoring.